There we go. Running my first Zoom podcast without my co-host Travis doing it for me. So it says we're recording, so I believe we are. Today we have a guest, super special guest actually, because it's unique to the show. Someone I've been working with for a while, and someone who I think that knows so much about all the relevant things that we deal with as beach volleyball players, but not only beach volleyball players, just in life. Like this kind of stuff that I've been working on with this guy here can be applied to all aspects of life. And I've been working fairly closely with him over the last few years. So I'm excited to have Carl Massey on the show with me today, all the way here from Bali.
Classic. And I've got an Australian accent, so I'll try and keep it
Right.
international so everyone can understand what I'm saying and not use too many acronyms. I got a bit of chills as you said that because, I looked at the first date that we worked together. It was like 15th of October 2017. So you were on your honeymoon over in Bali and that sort of stuff. And we did our first session there. So I was like, going through my notes, trying to see that thing.
Hmm.
And the word that I'd written there, because we did some stuff on a whiteboard as we were
Yeah.
doing the session, harmony
Mm.
was one of the key words that jumped out at me there. So, yeah, that's over 8 years. So we've been doing this thing for a while. I've got to see your journey as you sort of transition as well. So it's been fantastic and fabulous for me to see that. So I'm extremely honored and excited to be here and looking forward to where this conversation takes us.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And actually, as you said that, I remember when we did that whiteboard work. So I'll tell the story of kind of how we met and how it came to be. But okay, I'll come back to the whiteboard. And so basically, I went on my honeymoon with Gabby after we got married. This is soon after I got the diagnosis of the autoimmune disease back in 2017. And I was not doing that well physically. But, also one of the best times of my life, getting married and being on the honeymoon and being in Bali, which is heavenly for me. That's my energy for sure. Surfing, outdoors, yoga and meditating and all that stuff, especially at that time when I was looking to calm the mind and like figure
Mm.
out what the hell was going on with my body. Um, so right near our Airbnb, we look up yoga. There it is.
The
Remind me
practice.
the practice. Perfect. We go in, and I remember specifically, like your setup was amazing. It was so peaceful, kind of indoor outdoor vibe, Bali style roofs on the, I don't know, what
Lots
do
of
you call it?
bamboo.
Bamboo, yeah, like a palapa. It would be Mexican
Mm.
style, but so we have an amazing yoga class. On the way out, I think I saw one of your flyers. Like you can meet with Carl. He runs the practice and can help you if you got stuff going on, whatever it said, life coach kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know what's happening to me, and why not? I'm here. So I just, called you up and we had a session that evening or maybe in the morning or something. And that's when I met you. And during that session, I remember at some point we were writing, you're kind of just like mapping stuff out visually on the
Mm.
on the
Mm.
board. And I think I mentioned podcast. I'm
You
almost
did
positive, right?
absolutely.
And we wrote
Absolutely.
podcast on there. I literally came back from Bali. Our first episode was called Buddha Try because Travis was like, he just saw me meditating and doing all this stuff. He called me Buddha Try. Um, and that was when we recorded our first episode, right when we got back from Bali. And then you and I had a few sessions during that time over Zoom to continue our work. And then we took a break for a while, like just
Yeah.
naturally. I just went on my
Yeah. Yeah.
journey. Actually had like a lot of my success during that time. You only call for
Mm.
help when when
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
aren't going well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a few years. I don't even remember how long.
Yeah.
Maybe once or
Yeah.
twice in
Something like that.
between.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember, I think maybe it was maybe 2 years now. 2 years ago, I
Yeah.
remember I was in Brazil and I just
Mm.
couldn't sleep. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't crack the code.
Mm.
I had listened to your podcast still and I heard an episode. I was like, I'm reaching out right now. I need to talk to Carl. And so yeah, we've been in touch and kind of doing sessions throughout kind of my transition out of volleyball.
Mm, mm,
Before I knew that I wanted to transition out and then into transitioning out, and now I'm out of it. And we've just talked about so much volleyball stuff and so much stuff that I'm like, I like to share everything I learn with all my listeners on the podcast. And I'm
mm.
like, man, yeah, you guys got to hear from Carl. Plus, you have a podcast, well spoken, you have
Yeah.
books and
Mm,
public
mm,
speaking and
mm,
seminars
mm.
and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, welcome to the show. I'm
Thanks,
excited
buddy.
to dig
Thanks,
into. I don't
man.
even know where we're gonna go with it, but I'm not
Yeah,
worried
I
about
mean, I
it.
was thinking that transition thing. I'm definitely keen to get into that. I thought I'd just give people some of my background so they
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a
yeah.
sense of where I'm coming from. So my speed dating version is joined the military at 17, retired as a major, just over 30, spent 5 years as a security consultant on Olympic Games and mega events around the world, moved to Bali 2007, been coaching since then, so about 18 plus years. That's the speed version. Like, as with all of us, like, those talking points, there's always a story underneath it. And there's certainly some inflection points which cause, major course corrections. So I think for me, it's like three major ones. And as I was thinking about them before this call, I was thinking a lot of those major things that, created such a change came from total shit. So shitty circumstances that you think everything's, F and F and, total mess or whatever. You realize that was the catalyst for some change. Now, I these days want to be more strategic, but the first thing was disastrous relationship, first long-term relationship. I was living at the time in Tasmania, which is the island state off the south part of Australia. So way down there, smallish town, I guess the capital city, even there, like maybe 160,000 people. So breakup, terrible breakup. And I'd always see a car going past you, this like little Jeep thing. And every time I'd see that go past, my gut would just like twist. And I was like, I got to get out of here and I got to get as far away as possible. So I set up a gig with my boss at the time. So I was a captain at the time. And I organized 1 year's leave without pay, which meant I just disappeared from the army for a year, came back after a year, and I just didn't get paid. Like an awesome, awesome opportunity. I just had the best boss. And what I realized in that time was I left the known and familiar. So I went to London. I left the known and familiar of the military institution. I left my family and friends, and I just went by myself. And the biggest thing I learned out of that was I used to be a total homophobe, and that was like the military in the early 90s. You couldn't even be gay in the military at the time. It was illegal, by the military system or whatever. And what I realized when I went overseas was I don't give a shit about, someone's sexual preference, orientation. I don't care what color their skin is. I just like people and I'm fascinated in people. So I started to learn. That was the first time I think I learned about the power of our beliefs, and particularly institutions like the military, imposes certain belief sets on you. So you become institutionalized. And once you remove yourself from that, you realize, I don't actually believe in a whole bunch of that shit. So
Mm.
then you start asking questions, what do I believe in? So I reckon that was a huge change point for me where I came back and in a different direction. And then the next one was, so I came back to the military and I came back knowing that I had to get out of this thing. Like it just wasn't aligned with me. So I'm like, hatch a plan. So I said, okay, I'm going to take 3 years. I'm going to finish off a degree over that time. I busted my knee skiing over in Lake Louise in Canada. So I'm like, probably need a knee reconstruction. What better place to do it than in the military? So, and I racked up some debts in my 12 months away. So I said, okay, I need to pay off all my credit cards. So I was doing that. But, while I was doing that time back in the army, I just wasn't happy with myself. And if you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, we often just, we try to ignore it or we suppress it. Or my thing was drinking. So, I was drinking pretty heavily, living in the officer's mess, cheap access to alcohol. Drinking wasn't necessarily well accepted, but well enough accepted that, you could get pissed all the time and that sort of stuff.
Mm.
So I recall one time, like just getting hammered over a weekend and, waking up in the middle of the night, maybe a Sunday morning, 3 a.m., and I've turned the television on, and Tony Robbins is doing an infomercial. So Tony Robbins, success coach, and he's selling his personal power to this 30-day program. This is back in 1999. So, back in the days of ringing up on telephones and talking to a person and holding your credit card up and reading your credit card. So Easter 1999, I did his 30-day program. It was on CDs at the time as well, 6 CDs. So working your way through his program. But I reckon huge shift at that. And shift, again, I went deeper into understanding of personal psychology. But I also changed some habits. So I decided I wasn't going to get drunk on a regular basis. I started doing yoga back in 1999, and I sort of went vegetarian. So I changed my diet around a bit, and massive changes that caused. And again, while I was in the military, this is a challenge with transition. If you're in an institution and you're expected to behave a certain way and behave a certain way, man, if you come to a barbecue, you bring beers and you bring meat. So I'd come to a barbecue and I would be bringing zucchini and eggplant and, vegetables to cook on the barbecue. And I'd bring either light beers or soda waters. And my mates would go, fuck off, come back when you've got a case of beer on your shoulder and, you're carrying a freaking dead pig on the other side or whatever. So part of transitioning is like overcoming the opposition, because what you are is a mirror of reflection for people, particularly if they're not comfortable with the choices they're making. As I go on this health course and try and change that, like there's a lot of people going, no, I don't like what you're reflecting back to me, trying to pull you back into the fold.
Right.
So that was a tough transition for me. And, one of the things with the tough transition is if you can weather it out, and, it takes probably 3 to 6 months and maybe longer with some people, you change forever. You're actually changing a lot of things about your personal psychology and that sort of thing.
Right.
So I reckon that was the time where I started learning. Plus, I started reading non-fiction books. And since then, I've been an avid reader. So I've read hundreds and hundreds of books on all forms of psychology, neuroscience, ton of self-help books, epigenetics, like, name it, I've had a read and dabble of it. I'm fascinated by health, physical and mental health and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that was like, I reckon, the biggest change point for me. And then the next transition was I was doing the security consulting, and I was consulting in Athens at the 2004 Summer Games. Security consultant, and I was probably, because of the specialization of it, I was probably in the top 20 or 50 people in the world at what I did. Bomb management, specific security consulting for Olympic Games, that narrows the field down. I'd already done 2 Olympics by that stage, Sydney Olympics, I'd done Salt Lake Olympics. So, I was a pretty pro at that thing. And I could, go into a meeting and know that whatever question came up, I could answer it. So, really fully challenged.
Right.
But, and I'll get cynical about Olympics, because that was the bit that busted my balls on the whole institution and corporation of the Olympics.
I actually, like, it's cool because that's where our paths cross a bit, is you having some perspective on the Olympics. As I progressed throughout my career from young try as an athlete, 2017 was kind of like the closing chapter of my first third of my career. Then and then I got to meet you and know you kind of throughout the whole progress as I saw the Olympics, from what I dreamed it up to, trying to get there, and that process of it psychologically, internally, the battles that the athletes go through.
Absolutely.
And then being there and seeing what it is, and all that process. And so it's been cool, but we'll definitely get into the
And that was another shit experience, because the Greeks, once we'd taught them what they needed to know, then they wanted to get rid of us so they could take all the glory for having come up with these security plans and processes, which they never would have got to on their own. Right. So they chuck you out, so you feel like you've just been abandoned and trashed. So I realized later, like, I had pneumonia, then I had pleurisy. Pleurisy is an infection of the lining of your lungs and that sort of stuff, extremely painful. Feels like cracked ribs. I realize now that, there were some lifestyle things that led to that illness, but also some psychological stuff of feeling abandoned, feeling treated like shit, and all that sort of stuff that just puts a heaviness on you. And that sort of, for me now, my understanding is lung issues relate to our relationship with life as well. So if we feel that life is suppressing us and we're not sort of breathing in life, fully and, purely, then that can create something at a psychological level that translates to a physiological outcome. So that was again the shitty bit, which caused me. It's time for me to get out of this. I've been interested in coaching since I did the Tony Robbins stuff. I'd done a personal fitness training since that time. I was doing some other studies. I'd done some energy work. I'd done some Reiki work and that sort of stuff. Continued with my yoga stuff. So I'm like, I'm done with this security consulting, this fear-based stuff. Like, so I needed the sickness in order to give me the drive to say, up
Yeah.
you guys, I'm out of here and I'm going into the unknown
Yeah.
of start my own coaching business, which I thought was going to be a lot easier than it was.
Okay. And then you moved to Bali from there?
Yeah, like I'd worked over in the Middle East after the Athens game. I was just cashing up. And I worked over in the Doha Asian Games
Oh yeah.
2006. And it was just, I mean, it was a lot of fun. There were some great expats working there. And like at the upper echelon level, the executive level, it's all about power, money, prestige, looking good. They don't really give a shit about the athletes. But at
Especially
the
in Doha.
working, yeah, like at the working level, like at the, the expats working there did care about, making sure the athletes have the greatest experience and making sure they're taken care of
Yeah.
within the confines of what the executive would allow them to do. So there was all
Right.
that, but there was a lot of good people in the organization. But by that time, I'd had enough.
You see that firsthand when you go, before you even get to the Olympics. They're like, don't even think about representing your sponsors who are
Yeah,
paying you. You'll wear our sponsors who are
yeah,
paying us, and we
yeah.
will not pay you. We will not compensate you. We will take all of that.
It's a weird thing, and somewhere along the line, and I've studied neurolinguistics programming, hypnotherapy, hypnotized into this idea of the exclusivity of the Olympic experience. So, it's marketed to athletes of, this is, the pinnacle of your career, making it onto the podium
When
at
you're
the
a kid, when
Olympics.
you're a little kid, which when you're
Absolutely.
realizing that, when you chase that, and then you realize it at 35 or something,
Mm, mm.
that's a lot that's gone into that particular. And to be honest, like there's so much positive to it, right? When you really think about it, it is about the process and you're chasing
Yeah,
something you love
yeah.
and all that, So there's certainly the positives of it, but now that I've done it, I like highlighting both sides, and now that I
Yeah,
realized that, oh wow, like this is, first of all, the event itself exists because it might have been different back in the day. When it
it's
started
there to
back
make
in
money.
Greece, yeah, I don't know what it was about back in Greece and when they were running barefoot and wrestling naked and whatnot, but
Yeah, like I think it was like more human to human, heart to heart, competitiveness between the athletes. I think it
hmm,
was less of a spectacle
right,
and a marketing thing or a media event and merchandising and all of that sort of stuff. So it's I think a bit of the bare bones. Like I think it's lost a little bit of its. I would call it sacredness. The sacred competition where you just like human to human, like let's just see what I
yeah,
can do compared to you, and like I'm going to train my ass off, so I've got the highest probability of success there, and all that bullshit doesn't exist.
right,
Like it's just us and our bodies in our minds. Like let's play this thing out and see who comes out on top. I
right,
love that bit of sport and competition, that sort of stuff.
yeah,
But for me, I got a bit cynical after seeing the behind the scenes. Like,
How much
the
more? Yeah.
COO in Athens was called the bagman because he'd take a 10% cut on every contract that came in. And Madam
Mhm.
President, she was just setting herself up for the next gig. And it was just terrible.
It's brilliant. I mean, they built it up to where they don't have everyone will show up for free because the
Yeah,
brand of calling yourself an Olympian, you get to call yourself an Olympian now, which does
absolutely.
have monetary value if you can sell yourself later down the road, which
Absolutely.
is a lot harder than you'd think. You need a really good
Absolutely.
agent, by the way, and
Absolutely.
PR and all that. Um,
Mm. I mean, over
but
time, I've worked with, had a good client, great client, and I was with her after transitioning out of Olympics. So she was a gold medalist, snowboarder. She was the first woman to be on the cover magazine of the snowboarding magazine and all that sort of stuff. So she was a bit of a trailblazer back in the day. But after 3 knee reconstructions, decided, time to transition out and that sort of stuff. So I've had experience of those transitions. I've worked with 2 athletes that went for world titles and won world titles in water skiing. So 2 female athletes. And this water skiing is like hardcore, like it's, getting dragged behind a boat doing 100 mile an hour,
it's like
and
downhill
that's,
skiing, right? Like
yeah,
slalom.
and they're like doing circuits. So the water's getting churned up,
Oh,
like
wow, yeah.
just, they've just got thighs of steel. I
Right.
went
Yeah.
for a run one time with one that I was coaching, so I was doing the mental work with her. But we went for a run on the sand in Bali, and I was thinking I was pretty fit, ex-army boy, and I've like got a bit of gutso and that sort of stuff. She just blasted me. Like the last bit back, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty much done. She's just doing the sprint home, and the sprint home was like a solid 400 meters of soft
Oh
sand
God.
running. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm out of here. So, an extremely powerful athlete. But she realized, so she had been number 2 in the world in her 20s for water skiing in the event that she was doing. And life stuff happened, family, kids, and that sort of stuff. So she bowed out for a while, but kept skiing because it was, passion of hers and that sort of stuff. And then was towards her late 30s and decided, I'm as fit as I was when I was in my 20s. Like I can, fitness wise, physically, I can do this, but I'm smarter now and I realize I need to work on my mindset to get me through it. And the
Mm.
mindset stuff was, so when she competed, they have 4 rounds. So she aced the first 2 rounds. Third round just tanked it. And the mindset stuff is the bit that gets you back in the race after that third one where you've just, bombed it royally. You pick yourself back up and that sort of stuff. So she realized that, the inner work was going to help her get across the line. She could do all the physical stuff, but that was the
Yeah,
thing that was missing when she was always placing number 2.
for
So,
sure.
so
I,
I've loved the journey.
yeah, no, the journey of it is if you've made it, usually, at least I hope, if you made it that far, you've gone these years and years down the road
Mm,
and you've been succeeding, it's because you love the journey, because you had the energy to stay in it and train and do
mm.
all those things, which comes
But
from the joy a lot of the time. Not for everyone, maybe, right?
I was just going to say there's like a darker side that I've witnessed where, and I'm all about doing what you love. And when you stop loving it, it's time to move
Right.
on, whether it's elite sport, whether it's business, whether it's entrepreneurial, whatever it is, you got to love it.
But recognizing when you stop loving it is a very hard thing to do,
Yeah,
which I've been dealing with. And I feel like every athlete, to a certain extent, especially the world class ones,
mm,
there's maybe they loved it more of the time, but there's always a dark part of, like a transition
yeah,
part of it where, because it's so wrapped up in your personal identity, like
absolutely.
this is who I am. Like clearly, this
And
is
I
who I've
and
always
I've
been.
I've had clients that have gone into it because of other psychological stuff. Like I had a woman and she was like a world record holder in powerlifting. And she got into powerlifting because she'd been raped in her teens. So she had formed an idea like, I'm never going to be weak again and, allow anyone. So she got in it for that reason. But at some stage, sort of realized I'm not in this for the right reasons. I'm not doing it for love of it. I'm doing it to escape fear. And so when she sort of tapped into what she really wanted to do, she wanted to do yoga and meditation. Like that was In yoga, we'd say Dharmic path and that sort of thing. So I've had a couple of athletes where I've talked to them and they're at the top of their game, but the reason they got into it, became apparent that it wasn't necessarily love. It might have been mum was a, world class water skier as well. So then there was a girl that I coached, her daughter. She was at the high levels and that sort of stuff. But after I got off the call with her, I'm like, her heart isn't in this thing. She wants to take off for a year and travel and, expand her horizons. Maybe she goes back to water skiing and that sort of stuff. But,
Hmm.
you got to like be in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So it's not only love. It's like, what are my beliefs around me doing this thing? Is it mine? Am I doing it for my love? Is it my goals? Or am I doing it for something else? So that's like an interesting conversation with self about. And
Yeah.
and when you come into alignment with that, if you sort of own it, no, this is me, and I, love it to bits and that sort of stuff, and I'm willing to make the sacrifices and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's the gold medal, really.
Yeah. I agree. And I think I don't know, it's just that alignment piece that can be so tricky because it changes over time. And I see a lot of
Yep.
people um I guess lose sight of it and they're too scared to change, right? When you're
Yep.
that's the thing with sport and like especially
Yeah.
volleyball, it's ruthless. It's not beach volleyball specifically, you don't have a contract. Like no
Mm.
one, nothing's promised at any time. Everything's based on your winning, and you get paid, you get your health, especially at the national team level.
Yeah.
You win, you get a certain amount of prize money. You lose, you can go home. You probably lost money. Um, Sponsors,
Yeah.
I used to think contracts meant something, and they don't have to pay you,
Yeah.
unless you're going to have a bigger legal team than them. Um, Health insurance, which that one's the crazy one.
Yeah.
National teams, some national teams will support you, but then you get injured, your points dropped off of you're now not ranked in the national team because you're injured. Well,
Yeah.
now you're not ranked high enough to get health insurance. It's like
It's yeah,
there's
like
so
it's
much that's just like, and there's so much out of your control as well. You're traveling
yeah.
around the world. You know how hard it is to
Yeah,
travel.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jet lag, and
Yeah.
now you're relying on a teammate.
Yeah.
You're not, it's not all about you. You trained all year in 70 degrees and sunny. Now it's windy and 50 degrees, and your
Mm.
hands, like if you're like me, you have Raynaud's and your hands are numb,
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
this isn't
yeah.
what I trained for, like how I train. There's
Like
so
have
much
you
out of your control in our
yeah,
sport, yet if your personal identity and your livelihood and
self-image
all
and
this thing,
yeah.
self-image, self-esteem is all tied up in it.
Mm.
Navigating that is insane.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the other thought I had too, Troy, was as we get older, like in the your early 20s, you probably have a less complex life. And then you might have a partner, which adds complexity. And then you might take out a mortgage, which adds complexity and the financial strains. And then you decide to have kids. So, as well as your trajectory in the sport going like that, you've got this more complicated life. So, hats off to the people who got their shit together with those
Yeah.
things,
Do you
going in
think
parallel.
do you think it's like the mindset of, because I feel like a lot of people are like, stick to your roots, remember who you are, like you know what you like, you know what's given you success in the past, but there's also a flip side of it, like no, like keep letting go, keep resetting based
Mm,
on where you're
mm,
at in life
mm.
now. Like you said, all these
Yeah,
things happen, yet
yeah,
I'm
yeah. You
maybe
need to
still.
recalibrate.
Yeah, because like for my story, let's say use one example. When I came out of college, realized I could play pro. I was like, what's my dream? I always wanted to be a professional
Mm,
athlete, like but like try to be an elite one.
mm,
And I realized I could do it. That was in my hands to go and attempt to be an elite world class. I could act like one. I don't know if I'd get the results, but I could
mm,
live that
mm,
lifestyle.
mm.
And so I just said, try, you're an elite world class athlete now. like that's who we are and how we're living. And then my results went like I went to straight to the top in beach volleyball.
mm, mm.
And so then I was like, oh, okay, that's who I am. That's it, and I
That's
lived it and I wasn't gonna, you couldn't push me off that for all those years.
yeah.
But all those things you mentioned, the mortgage, the
Mm,
wife,
mm,
first kid, the second kid, the
mm,
injuries, the pain that
mm,
I'm feeling in my body day to
mm.
day, the, difficulty to sleep, the autoimmune disease,
Yeah.
the wear and tear.
That's the bit.
That stuff
Mm,
changed, yet I'm
mm,
still thinking about things and expecting things to happen based on what I
mm.
decided when I was 22. You're an elite world-class athlete and you don't make excuses and you do everything the right way.
Yeah. Look, the thing with it for me, like, and I call myself an expert strategist, 14 years in the army and 5 years consulting for games and that sort of stuff. So I like to be very strategic about it. Plus, I've studied hypnotherapy, so I understand, what's happening at a brain level.
That's
I
fascinating too. I'd
think,
like to hear that.
yeah, well, I think the biggest thing for us is once we get in the weeds, we lose perspective. So, what I encourage all my clients is on a weekly basis, you need to zoom out. Because when you're in the weeds too, you're pretty much in midbrain, like you're sort of in that here and now. You're not sort of thinking long term and that sort of stuff. You're not in the frontal cortex, frontal lobes of the brain and that sort of stuff. So we sort of zoom back, take a few deep breaths, get oxygen energy up into, the higher nether reaches of our mind. We broaden our perspective. It's only when we have that broad perspective that we can actually look at all those complex pieces and make better sense of them. And that might be the stage where you go, hey, this has always worked for me to this stage. Is it still working for me? And having the growth mindset that allows you to let go of the things that no longer serve you, like non-attachment to stuff. So be willing to change beliefs and be willing to change how you train and be willing to change, how many competitions you do, per year. Like, I think that's the thing that's necessary when we're doing anything that's challenging is we need to formally step back, zoom out and recalibrate because that might even be, well, I need to change some of these goals around. I've given myself 18 months to do this. I think I need to give myself 2 years because I've got a couple of other things, complex pieces that I need to add into it. So I think the biggest stress happens when people don't formally zoom out and recalibrate. Like, I think that's the difference maker for navigating through anything that's challenging, anything that's complex. And it
Mm.
also allows you to keep tuning into your why. Is this still what I really desire? Like, I might start a workshop and I'm running that for a few years and then I'm going, should I stop having fun doing this thing? Like,
Right.
is it really still like, no? And I practice through the yogic teachings and a lot of the Eastern philosophy, non-attachment. So I'm not attached to sunk costs or anything that I've done in the past. If I'm not enjoying that shit now, that shit's in the recycle bin. So I think
Yeah.
that's really hard. When we get fixated on a goal like this, we almost want the left brain, which is about the fixation, breaking down details and logical, but the right brain's about context, seeing the bigger picture. We
Mm.
need to be able to switch around, and that's called whole brain thinking, where we can, okay, fix in to, do my training to do exactly what I need to do in order to get me there, but then I need to slip out, go broad picture, take care of family stuff, take care of financial stuff, and that sort of thing. So it's a dance around, how we use our mind rather than being one dimensional. We need to be freaking 4 dimensional, maybe
Yeah.
5 dimensional to, to get our way through that without our eyeballs popping out from stress.
Right. And then, I mean, stress is the other thing, right? Like when you live constantly, which I'm learning a lot about because having the autoimmune or like any kind of
Mm.
what I'm learning is um, any kind of chronic illness is usually coming from within. Correct me if I'm wrong, and this goes to that. I'm trying to learn it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the hypnotherapy stuff you're talking about, this stuff at an energetic
Subconscious.
level, and it's not like this. What I've learned by actually reading the books that you've sent me over the
Mm.
years and listening, and it's not this magical like. magician stuff going on, like
mm,
the
mm,
science of it. And if you really look at it, it actually makes sense of
mm.
what's going on and how the energy, I don't know. I'll let you
Yeah,
explain it.
I'm because there's a field of study, and like within the medical and scientific professions, it takes a long time for something to be known and then actually to make it to the frontline doctors and that sort of stuff.
Right.
So there's something called psychoneuroimmunology. Psycho sort of, psychology wise. So it's saying sort of, thoughts and stuff happening in our mind can actually affect our immune system. So, it's sort of, so psycho, then neurological in our mind, and then immunology. So it actually affects our immune system. So what we need to do is, for me, I'm always about we need to work on the physical, but we also need to work on the psychological.
Hmm.
So I've got a client at the moment, just starting with me in the next few weeks, and he was brought up in a family where his dad was a aggressive alcoholic and that sort of stuff. So what he does as a protective mechanism, he's always hypersensitive. Because he's hypersensitive, he's working on the midbrain. He's in a fight, flight, or freeze state all the time.
Right.
Adrenaline, he's using adrenaline all the time. Too much
Yeah.
adrenaline use without being turned off means you're starting to get into too much cortisol. Cortisol, you're starting to break down things at a cellular level. So there's that knock-on effect. So if he wants to heal from that, we'll do all the physical things, but we also need to look at processing some of that deep trauma from his childhood and that sort of stuff. And if
Mm.
you don't do those two things in parallel, you don't get the effects. So I think we need to, and this is why, I'll talk at the end about this workshop I've got coming up about beliefs. And it's sort of based around, I wrote this book on successful mind, and it's looking at, these beliefs we have actually create our reality. Like it's not the outside world, does to me. It's like because I have certain beliefs, I filter out sensory input, which gives me the impression that that's the reality of the experience in front of me.
Right.
I might have a belief that I can't do something or something's too hard or, you can't survive in this marketplace in this time. As soon as someone just down the street is thriving in exactly the same environment you're in, your belief's not a fact. It's just a made up piece of shit. So
Right.
what we need to do is like always be looking at, okay, I got triggered by something. Okay, what is it I'm telling myself which causes me to be triggered by that? Because when we get triggered, we're flicking the switch on the amygdala, creating a stress response, creating adrenaline and all of those physiological things in our body, and often for a non physical event. So part of our work is, and this thing around stress is, why am I stressed over this particular thing? Is it my relationship with this particular thing? There might be real world stuff that you need to take care of, but then there's other, where's my psychological mindset in relation to this experience? An example might be, do I have unrealistic expectations of, my teammate or my team or the Olympics freaking committee or whatever? Like, am I setting an expectation which is not in touch with reality? And the gap between reality and my expectation creates stress. So we can create our own stress just by having unrealistic expectations. And that's at the professional level, that's at the personal level. If we have uh, a sibling that's always late to everything and we sort of get angry every time they're late, we're almost delusional because we're expecting
Right.
them to be something that they're not. So a lot of stress that we experience is self-imposed. And that's
Mm.
where I'm fascinated. I'm like, what are you telling yourself that's causing you to have that? Like, let's just pause, step back and see how much of what you're telling yourself is true.
I've
And that can
gone
be,
down I've gone down like a bit of a rabbit hole with me and Travis joke about it a lot because he coached me on one of my last seasons and I got to the point where I'm like I think expectations maybe are completely useless. Like I don't know when they're useful. That's kind of like
mm,
what I was coming
mm.
up with in my head. I'm curious like what you hear when you hear that because like for me it's like I go to the ocean and if I expect there to be good waves, because I know I've had good waves, I'm always like, I wish it was a little better, a little bigger, a little. It's never good enough, you know. And
That, I
I'm just
totally
like,
agree.
are expectations useful? as long as you can, because I think there's a fear for me.
Yeah.
If I don't have expectations, then I will not succeed. I won't
Play a
move up
small
in life.
game.
I won't
Yeah.
win. I won't,
Yeah. I
I
need the
have to
juice
believe
of the
it. I
expectation.
expect to win. That's
Yeah.
why I'm winning. Whatever I
Yeah.
believe I'm right, it's going to manifest itself. But I don't know if I believe that anymore.
Well, my big thing is, and this is probably over the last, probably 4 or 5 years, it's become more and more clear to me. So I used to believe that knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. You've got the knowledge, you've got the experience of it, that equals wisdom, so you make better choices. But I found that we can have knowledge and experience and still make the same shitty mistake. So someone in a relationship has got the knowledge, experience that this partner isn't right for them, and then does it all over again, and then does it all over again. And
Hmm.
so so I've come to the realization knowledge plus experience equals potential wisdom.
Uh,
The thing that turns it into real world wisdom in action is consciousness. So if I have an expectation, but I have conscious awareness, which allows me to be above as the observer. Like I expect
yeah.
something to be great, but when it isn't, because I've got a high level of consciousness, I'm not fighting reality. I'm just going, I expected it to be better. It's not.
Just observe it.
That's the reality. I'm conscious of that. I'm not going to fight it. I can't
Mm.
control the weather. I can't control the waves and that sort of stuff. So that brings a peace and calmness. So for me, to our work, and particularly in the sporting world, is we need to work on our level of consciousness. So we have conscious awareness to be able to see our own gunk. So, we can see, oh, I'm starting to flip out again. Or I'm starting to come down too hard, on my partner because I've got my own shit going on. Like I want that level of consciousness. So I have awareness of everything. So for
Yeah.
me, I make choices. I do practices to raise my level of consciousness, and I also choose to do things that raise my consciousness and not do things that lower. So I don't drink alcohol except a beer or two with my brother when I catch up with him once or twice a year. And I was not because I'm a fogey about it. I just don't like the sensation of not having full conscious awareness. I
Yeah,
love wisdom.
you love
I,
it,
I
right?
want to be making wise choices. I know if I get on the booze, I make shit choices. And
Right.
then there's consequences, and some of those can be long-term consequences.
You're just
That's not
downgrading
where I
your
want to be.
you're downgrading your hardware,
Yeah,
software. You're
absolutely. So
like
you are, as an athlete, you're just like, what's going to keep me at the top of the game? So I think working on consciousness, and I think more and more athletes are adding in, meditative practices, mindfulness practices, and all that sort of stuff, because I realize, the more temperance I have of mind, so I'm less reactive, the more I can perform. And you want a player who's able to see the big picture and then come down and do the specific big picture, who has that behavioral flexibility to move between them.
yeah, like and I'll say early in high school, I got the little piece of mindfulness and I started thinking about it and it just avalanched from there to where I'm people we all laugh about how much I block everything out in the game.
Mm,
Care about
mm,
score, I don't remember what happened in the last play. Remember you did this? And I'm like, I don't
mm,
care. Because
mm.
like the whole time all I'm doing is meditating my way through the match.
Yep.
Because it worked. And eventually I just got convinced to myself, I was like, if I just focus on being pre or coming back to the present pretty much the
Mm,
entire match, and I do the preparation so I know what to do,
yep. Yep.
there's nothing that's going to make me play better outside of that. That's what I convinced myself. Whether or not I'm
Mm.
right or wrong, no one's proved me
I
wrong
mean,
yet.
I mean that's a great strategy because it just while the game is on, and you're in game mode, you've got your game hat on and that sort of stuff.
And I
What we
prepared
need to
hard.
do is be able to transition. Now that I've finished that intense piece, now I need to transition into deep rest. And I
That's the
think
part.
that's the challenge.
That's the part that I'm thinking now is like, okay, I think I really became whatever master. I became
Mm,
very good at that part of staying in the present moment and
yep.
resetting in the game.
Yeah.
That's all I did.
Yeah.
But I never really took it outside the court and realized like after the match, where's my head going?
Yeah.
All this stuff matters in recovery,
I
mental
think that would have
recovery,
changed your
physical
recovery. Yeah.
recovery. And I really struggled in recovery at some points throughout.
Yeah.
I think maybe some of this could have had to do with me getting the autoimmune disease in the first place when it came along right when I said I won the world tour or I won a bronze medal at the world tour finals,
Mm,
on the
mm,
podium with the Olympians, the Olympic gold medalists.
mm,
I'm the youngest American player that's doing anything at that moment. I was like, okay, this is my
mm, mm.
I'm that guy. And then
Yeah.
boom, autoimmune disease. 2 years
I,
out. And I just know the dialogue in my head after a loss.
mm,
I'm locked in, and then after the match, I'm like, I don't even want to be happy right now. Don't talk, let me be pissed. I want to be pissed.
yeah.
And then sometimes the dialogue was insane. Like I didn't even
Yeah.
believe what
Yeah.
I was saying, but I
Yeah.
just needed to get it out, and
Yeah.
just literally like anything, just like throwing shit at the wall, just like I'm just gonna say it to myself just to get it
Mm.
out. And I don't think I ever really believed it, but it was just like there was a lot of crap, after matches that I
Yeah.
lost.
I
And when
call
I
it gunk in
won,
the trunk.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I just throw it everywhere. But when
That's,
I won, it wasn't like this super high, The lows are
yeah,
low,
like,
and then the
yeah.
wins were like, yeah, expectation. You're
I mean, the
supposed to
Eastern philosophy is saying, we've got to a great place when we don't have super highs and we don't have super lows.
Right.
Like we just have these peaks, but the peaks are like they might be a pure bliss. They might just be a really beautiful heart feeling that you have when you win, and you just like, and it's just juicy and sweet. It's not this.
It's
It's
not
like,
the
oh,
drink
that's where I want to.
alcohol, like now we
Yeah,
get to rage, drink.
yeah,
Now I'm in the
yeah,
club and having that high right now, or whatever,
yeah.
pogoing with my friend. Right. Right.
So yeah, that's the evolution. Is can I get to the stage where I'm experiencing bliss with
Right.
those things that I've set as my intention and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking of a book I read ages ago called The Power of Full Engagement. And the boys were trying to work out who wrote that book, what separates the top elite from the next tier down. And they did all the tests, and physically they said the same, mentally and that sort of thing, pretty similar and that sort of thing. And they were looking at tennis players, I believe. And what they reckon was the elite guys were able to, between plays, reduce their resting heart rate or reduce their heart rate, whereas the second team down couldn't. So they would say that the top players were able to have micro rests,
Mm.
like progressively throughout the match, where the second tier will just be jacked up the whole time.
And you know
So
what's
that
considered
idea of
cheating?
rest, yeah, go on.
Steroids.
What's
Steroids.
that?
What's considered most of the drugs that are considered cheating are helping people recover, not to play better, helping them to
Mm,
recover better.
mm.
So if
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
mentally able to do that better, you're at an advantage, right?
Absolutely. So for me, the recovery is so huge, and I think that's where a lot of people have challenges in the sporting world, is they think going harder for longer and that sort of thing is the thing that's going to get them there. And the idea of having a rest and rest day, and doing those motionless activities like sitting in meditation for 30 minutes, trying to justify that to themselves. No, I should be doing extra sets, or I should be doing more squats or dips, like whatever it is. So it's like
I'm getting that
rest.
right now. Like I'm resting and recovering but I can feel my heart and my nervous system say, you're not being
What are you
productive.
doing?
You're not being I'm doing these workouts where I'm like intuitive. I'm doing what feels good, like opening up my hips and I'm working out, but like it's not hard. I'm not even
Yeah,
sweating.
yeah.
And I can feel consciously because I'm doing the meditations and stuff. I'm like, this
Mm,
feels right.
mm,
Physically in my body, I'm like, dude, go. What are you doing? Go
mm,
harder,
mm.
do more, constantly
And the
wanting to do
physical in
more.
the body starts with a signal in the brain that's saying, "Are you doing enough? You need to be like." That's where we need to get back to root cause and say
Right.
it's that thing that's causing me to feel this level of anxiety that I don't understand even why I'm feeling a little bit anxious. Like I'm
Yep.
sitting here relaxed. Like, why should I? Yeah, because something in my brain that's based on some story that I bought into, a while ago is causing me to think I need to be doing something. So part of our work, this is transition. This is all of life,
That's where
is
I'm
trying
at.
to understand what the internal dialogue is that's
Hmm.
causing us to have that low level anxiety.
Yeah.
I reckon that's a big one for me is, are you doing enough? And that's been my driver. So part of my work in, I'm 56 now, is like trying to tone down that thing because I reckon um, I can make greater bounds professionally by creativity. I call that quantum leaping.
Hmm.
And that requires me to be in this spaciousness state, this relaxed, calm, clear, stable state. So, okay, it's not doing physical things tensing up that's going to get me there. So I need to rewire my brain to like align with that new pathway.
Yeah. No, that's where my head's going with it is like sometimes less is more, and you can actually be more productive if you, it's hard to,
Make smarter choices.
yeah, but like, so if you create the correct internal environment, right?
Yeah.
Your body, your
Yeah.
brain, most importantly, your creativity is
Yeah.
going to be firing at a way higher level. So
Yeah.
therefore, you're going to be more successful
Yeah.
by letting go and
Mm.
not letting that staying in that stress state, because the stress state isn't a state where you can create. Your creativity is turned off because you're in survival, right?
Mm.
So that's the part I'm starting to I'm just like realizing is like if you really want to train your creativity, which is what we want as
Yeah.
athletes, but
Yeah.
anyone in most
Absolutely.
jobs, right?
Absolutely.
Then you can't be pushing, you can't be in that stress state. So you should be studying how to get yourself
Oh,
into that
absolutely.
stress state. Like, yeah, the person, like you said, the person who can go be
Yeah.
in that survival mode, probably in the game is
Yeah.
where we
It's
want that
necessary.
survival mode.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then whoever can step out, even in between points, like I think Novak
Yeah.
Djokovic talks about it in his book.
Okay.
You did you tell me to read that book? I don't
No,
know.
I haven't. I haven't read it. I might be
It's called
interested to check
Serve
that
to
out.
Win, but he's just a very mindful athlete.
Absolutely.
He's knows what he's eating. You could just tell he's well
Yeah. Yeah.
spoken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's his thing is that he's upstairs, he's more under control than other
All right.
athletes.
So you give me the chills as you say that. So that sort of is for me feedback that you're speaking absolute truth with a capital T. He comes across as a very mindful, self-aware athlete.
Very.
Like that is why he's top of the game and has been consistently top of the game for so long.
Yeah.
So, we might be able to have spurts that take us, just by pure grunt. But if we want to sustain it, we need to like have this thing that levels us out.
Yeah.
That deep rest to
Efficiency.
balance out. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's so efficient.
I'm just looking at my notes and seeing if there's anything else that I wanted to. Oh, that was the other one. Like we've worked together, and one of the things was the win at all cost thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes for me, we can plant a seed, and the seed might be win at all costs, and that could be a good thing again in the short term, but it might be something that causes to make poor choices because we sort of, might secondarily take care of our body in our desire at all costs and that sort of thing. So for me, trying to understand what is our drive and what's the story I'm telling myself, which is supporting me achieving whatever goal, because it might be you just might modify that statement so it becomes something that's a little bit more healthy. You
Yeah.
know, I'll win I'll win by giving it my absolute all, but with a level of awareness of, when I need to back. Like, it's like we get fixated on a particular belief that gets planted. So sometimes it becomes subconscious. That's actually driving our decision making, that sort of stuff. The
Yeah, like
conscious awareness piece is like, is that serving me or do I need to tweak it?
yeah, and like I don't think you let's use a football player example, right? A lot of some of them get CTE after, right? The brain disease
Okay.
from so much contact in the
Yeah,
head
yeah.
and whatnot.
Yep.
A lot of the athletes in their 20s, I think, are win at all costs, and they've done it. They're like the older
Mm,
guys are like, I've gotten 50 concussions, like
mm,
whatever. I didn't think
mm,
about it,
mm,
and in the moment, I didn't care. I'm just win at all costs.
mm.
But your older self would never sacrifice
Yeah,
that
yeah,
cost your head,
yeah,
your brain,
yeah,
your ability to live a, whatever, a good
yeah,
lifestyle, so like becoming conscious of that, being careful of what you say, like not all costs, like it's worth,
yeah. Not my relationship,
yeah, is
not
it
my
worth your
kids.
relationship?
Like,
Exactly. Like,
so,
but like some of us know, maybe we think subconsciously, we're like, I know it's not really worth that, but are your actions actually following that as well? Which I feel like that's what had a lot to do with just my retirement, to be honest. It was
mm,
like, it's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, is what I kept saying,
yeah,
right? Like it
yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah. And that's why
there's
I
too
circled
many
back to that.
sacrifices at this point.
Yeah. I circle back to that strategy of, penciling in your diary. Like, 9 o'clock every morning, Monday morning, I do a beach walk, and then I go to a cafe and I sit down for about 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, and I do a review snapshot of my life, zoom out. I look at my professional, I look at my personal, I look at my relationship, I look at my finances, I look at all of that stuff. Because if I just trust that I'll figure that stuff out along the way, I won't.
Hmm.
I need to, like, chisel out time, and I need to mark it up in my diary, and I need to tell people I'm not available. I call it meeting with me Inc. I'm the head of the board, I'm the CEO, and I'm having a meeting with the most important person about the
Yeah.
most important stuff. And I might notice, oh, I need to probably give a little bit more attention to my girlfriend. She's got some other stuff going on and that sort of stuff. So I might need to wind down my work a little bit so I
Hmm.
can fix it, put more attention on that. So that's the bit that allows us conscious awareness of the game called life. And we need to realize that the game of our sport or our professional, whatever it is we want to excel at, is part of the bigger picture of the life thing. And I think that's so important and easy to lose sight of if we don't specifically make a point of putting attention and focus into it. It's easy to get lost in the weeds.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely necessary. I go out on I go out on the boat now to get out in the ocean.
Perfect.
But
Perfect. Perfect.
that self-time, I think, becomes harder and harder, right, as you get older. And so
Absolutely.
I'm assuming,
Absolutely.
30s and 40s is kind of like the most stressful time of a lot of people's lives, just because
More
there's so
complexity.
much complexity. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. It's easy in your early 20s when you don't have much to worry about.
Yeah,
But, when you get into your 30s and 40s and you've got houses, you've got mortgages and you've got kids and you've got partners and you've
yeah.
got family and friends and business affiliates, like that stuff gets messy. And then you
Mm.
get to my age and you decide, I'm just going to simplify my life. I'm moving to Bali. I
Dude,
haven't been home for Christmas for about 20 years. Sometimes that's just a little bit too much for me. So I go home for,
you
my
know,
family's birthdays and like just a bit of one-on-one stuff. So
yeah,
I've made the choice of simplifying my life as part of my overall life strategy for my own physical and mental well-being. I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose who I spend time with, how I spend time. I'm going to make sure I don't overcrowd my diary with appointments. I'm going to be really clear about who I want to work with, filtering out who I want to work with, only working with good people I know are going to get that. Like, that's like the level of attention. I'd call that mindful living that you can bring into your life, but it doesn't happen by chance. It's
yeah.
like, okay, no, I need
Probably
to.
a lot you might find that is challenging and uncomfortable, I would think as well, right?
Mm. Oh,
When you
absolutely.
start becoming more conscious, you have to be
Absolutely.
willing to like be like feel the uncomfortableness and the challenge and be like, that's okay. That's part of it.
Yeah. That's
Instead of turning from it.
that's the inner work is how can I navigate whatever gets thrown my way? And yeah, for me, like I strategically live in Bali, lower cost of living, so it means I need to work less hours. We live in a digital age where we can like so I'm
I'm a
very
little
lucky that
jealous, I'm not gonna lie. Like I throw it out there every once in a while just in case it manifests itself where I end up in Bali for more time.
classic. We'll do the next conversation live in Bali. That
Yes.
might be that might be a good call. Hey, we'll wrap up soon too. I think
Yeah,
people
yeah,
have probably taken enough stuff out of
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So these are my books
Yeah.
that
I want to hear about.
I've written 6 books. Like I set a goal of write 5 books in 10 years, and once got, I wrote a sixth book, and then I'm like, this is less fun. Like, so I need to be really tuned into this is a topic I need to write about. I need a calling to write. So I'm just like sitting back and letting the calling come. But I said to Troy that everyone can get a copy of this audio book version of this. So this is the last book I wrote. It's like, 18 years of coaching. I've identified what are 18 things that people typically do that make their life harder than it needs to be and what might be a better option. Simple stuff, but, can make a significant difference. One of them is about don't expect people to be who they're not, that we talked about earlier on in the podcast.
Right.
Um,
Thank you
Decision
for
making
that.
mastery. I'm a big fan of decision making based on my military stuff, the game stuff, but also hypnotherapy and understanding how the brain ski works. This is what I'm basing my workshop. So I've got a workshop coming up on the 7th of February. It's an online workshop. I've set it up with a mix of live calls and watching content online and that sort of stuff. And again, it's this idea about trying to understand, how our beliefs impact us, the pluses and the minuses and that sort of stuff. Then us individually doing an activity where we identify what are our beliefs in relation to different topics, then identifying of those beliefs, which do we think is the one that kicks us up the arse the most? And then we do an NLP technique, neuro linguistics programming, where we do a switch of a disempowering belief and we replace it with an empowered belief. So we're trying to rewire the brain. So I think it's one of my favorite half-day workshops I run, and I'm just doing it online and stretching it out. So, and I've set it up so you can choose your price. So $5 minimum because we're doing a bit of charity raising. But you just choose whatever price you want to pay for the workshop. So
And
do
how
check it
long is
out.
it?
It's like a week long. So I'm doing like a call on a Saturday, and then you sort of do the training and the activity through the week. And then on the following Saturday, we check in to make sure that the activity was done well, that we've identified the core limiting belief that's specific to you. Okay, good. Now let's do the NLP technique on the Sunday, and that's self-paced. And then we'll do a check-in a couple of weeks after it.
Wow.
And I'll probably do trying to do time zones between, Europe, Australasia, and America. It's a dog's breakfast. So I'll probably do 2 calls each day. So the one in Bali will be on a Saturday. The one in the US will be a Friday afternoon.
Mm.
For West Coast, East Coast will be a little bit different. But yeah, I reckon it's something that we all need to stop, take a breath, and go, what am I telling myself? And is that getting this result that I don't like? Like, is that result that I'm not liking, is that something outside of myself, or do I have some impact on that experience?
Right. No, I've
So,
been trying to do a lot of the self work, but I mean, I recommend to people, I think sometimes we're too proud to like ask for help or like to go get help. Like it's just so
mm,
helpful sometimes to get that outside perspective and
absolutely. And I have this saying that we only know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So
right, yeah.
there's just sometimes a knowledge gap.
Yeah,
It's not
100%.
it's not anything wrong with us. It's just shit. I didn't know there was an easy way to do this. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
Move on.
Well, I'm super interested. I hope some of the listeners want to get in on it. Clearly, I'm a believer in the work we've done and the work you're doing and how you're helping people. So we appreciate it. Did you give the website so people can check it out?
Um,
I'll put it
so
in the show notes as
yeah, put it in
well.
the show notes.
Okay.
It's barleycocreation.com/overcome. So yeah, put that in the show notes.
Yep.
And also if people like, and we'll put in the show notes the link. It's like 18waysbook.com/audio. So I'll put that in there. That will sign you up to my newsletter. I have a weekly newsletter, which is all very practical. And
Thank you.
that'll give you details on the workshop as well. So that's probably a good first move. And again, I reckon that book is pretty solid because it's super practical. That's my style.
That's a no-brainer, I think, with you
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
hooking
yeah.
us up on that one.
Class
Uh,
act.
so thank you so much for that.
Cool. Hope
Heck
everyone
yeah.
understood my Australian accent. I don't think I went too off course and started talking like a bloody Aussie and sort of chuck this over here and throw this in here, and she'll
We've
she'll be right, mate.
we've tried to talk in the Aussie accent a few times, mocking our buddies over there, and it's pretty bad. So I won't do that for
Yeah,
you.
the Americans aren't so good at the Aussie accent, and I'm probably not so great
They
at the
just go
American
straight to
accent.
shrimp on the bobby.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
This is fantastic, and I love any opportunity that I get to share things. And like I said, I've really enjoyed seeing the transitions of athletes, and it really is best done strategically, mindfully, making those transitions. So I've seen some athletes that fall off the rails, leave the sport, particularly in, say, the professional football in Australia and that sort of stuff, that,
Mm.
just transition super poorly and, end up with drinking and drug issues and all sorts
Yeah.
of issues. So it's like really giving it the attention and sacredness that it deserves to go, no, this isn't easy doing these transitions or making the decision to transition. Like, take your time with it, get professional help to move through it. So you do it, mindfully, so you don't end up in some bad spot later on.
I that's part of why I wanted to share these conversations so much because I felt like I was well prepared for the transition, right? I already went through a transition of the 2 years of autoimmune where I was out and
Mm,
doing a
mm,
lot of this work. And then I went through COVID with everyone and I was like, oh, I'm practicing more of that. And
mm.
then retirement comes and it's still really hard. But I know people could be even deeper when it's more confusing and they don't have some of the practice that I've already built
Yeah,
up.
yeah, absolutely. Over the 7 years, you've
And
been ticking away.
I knew to call someone and get help like early on before I even knew
Mm.
I wanted to transition out of sport.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I mean
Yeah, I
people,
mean, not trying to
it's
upsell
hard.
myself and my services. I reckon the biggest mistake. So when I left the Olympics and all that sort of stuff and transitioned into coaching, setting up my own business was something I wasn't unfamiliar with. I thought because I'd worked at such a high level, professionally, that this would be a walk in the park. But I've realized since that the gap between working for someone else and running your own gig is the size of the Grand fucking Canyon. It's huge. So, I bumbled my way through probably for 5+ years of, having wins and losses and all over the place until I actually got some good quality advice. So, if I turn the clock back, I would have been better investing time, energy, effort, money, or whatever in the earlier stage of that transition. So I didn't have to make 5 years of mistakes.
Uh,
Maybe I could have been there in sort of 2 or 3 years. There's benefit in making mistakes, but sometimes it's like it doesn't have to be as hard as it is. Like, there are easy ways, and it's okay to do the easy way in life. There's
right,
not extra points for doing it hard.
right.
Yes, you get the lessons deeply, but you don't get extra points.
Yeah, and if you spend too much time in that stress state, you're building
Uh,
some subconscious things in your body.
Absolutely.
Don't hang
Absolutely.
out in
Bang
that
on.
stressed out state too long.
Yeah, bang on, buddy. Bang on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you,
So,
Carl.
absolute pleasure. Love this conversation. I've loved working with you over the 8+ years, and I look forward to seeing where your transition and journey takes you as well, buddy. So,
Heck yeah.
I'm really proud of what you've done over time and how you're gracefully moving into your transition as well. So, kudos
Appreciate
to
it.
you.
Appreciate all the support. And honestly, I just want to come be there in person with you. Maybe, maybe
We'll
not
make
even
it
fixing
happen.
issues, just going for a jog or something I don't really
Yeah.
jog, but
Yeah. No, I
something,
don't.
a
Bicycle ride?
hike,
Hike. Yeah, that
something. Go
works.
hang out with the monkeys in Bali is perfect.
Yeah,
Or just
classic.
yoga.
Can't fold it. Can't
Heck
fold it.
yeah.
Mate, I look forward to it.
Yes,
Have a
sir.
fantastic day and take care, yeah?
All right. Appreciate you.
See you, everyone. Ciao.
Cheers.